Hello, I don't know if I need this. I have a very loud voice, but I'll use it for now. I am Calica Jansen, so I work here at Southeast Community College as the director of the Counseling Assistance Program for Students, and I just wanted to thank you all very much for coming to tonight's event. We are really lucky and grateful to have some local organizations here to talk to us about what they're doing, their resources, and also just the topic of human trafficking here in Nebraska. So before we get to that, I'll give some introductions in a little bit, but a few housekeeping things. If you would like or you feel like you need it, there are some sign-in sheets. I know staff and faculty might want those, or students, so those are over here along with some information from the organizations. If you need the restroom and don't know where that is, it's out these doors toward that side of the building, and then take a left past the glass cafe doors. And at the conclusion of the presentation, we will talk a little bit about any questions you might have, so feel free, we'll have another microphone go around and ask some questions. But just a really informative evening tonight. Okay, so we're going to turn the floor over to them. I'm going to do introductions. First, we'll start on this end of the table. We have Megan Johnson, who is the Street Outreach Director at Ive Got A Name. Megan provides personal one-on-one help to those vulnerable or to the victims of sex trafficking. She uses her past life experience to provide emotional support while connecting them to needed services. As she explains, these girls look at me and they have no hope in their eyes. I was there and I remember that feeling. I tell each girl, your story may not look like my story, but mine may not look like yours. Being able to relate is huge. Through unconditional love, Megan uses her past life experience to direct girls toward a life they never imagined possible. Also from Ive Got A Name, Paul Yates is here, Executive Director. He is the director of Ive Got A Name, a faith-based nonprofit organization committed to eradicate sex trafficking in Nebraska. After 24 years working in the public and private sectors, Paul discovered a new passion within himself as he began to work for a nonprofit fighting sex trafficking in Nepal. This new journey was foreign to anything he was familiar with. He will tell you it was a time in his life when everything changed. After 8 years protecting the daughters of Nepal, Paul felt called to focus his experience and passion on behalf of those threatened by sex trafficking here where we live in Nebraska. His message is simple: become aware, get involved, use your talents and gifts, take action, and become a life changer. Become the hope for those who see no hope in their future. We also have Kathy Kemmler. Kathy has worked for the Coalition on Human Trafficking as a project coordinator for the hotel motel program since January 2016. Prior to that, she worked for 30 years in the human resources field as a human resources consultant and for a Fortune 500 company in the compensation, benefits, and talent management fields. Kathy holds a master's degree in industrial organizational psychology and in Christian spirituality, as well as a certificate in spiritual direction. And we also have Yolanda, I hope. Ty, I'm sorry, I'm Calica. Are you here for Set Me Free Project?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm so sorry to introduce myself when you came in. Do you want to talk a little bit about any introduction for you, or should we just start the presentation? Sorry to put you on the spot.
Hi, I'm Ty. Well, we can definitely just start.
Okay. All right. Thank you. We'll get started.
Okay, back to you.
Was that the green light? Is that the
Yes.
green light? Okay.
Do I need a microphone?
Do I need a microphone? Can you all hear me? Okay. Are you sure? Okay. We're good. Microphones are okay. You guys have a microphone. We just met earlier, and we just met, but we decided that I'm going to give a little bit of an overview about human trafficking, and I need to maybe just back up a little bit and tell you that in 2008 is when I left my job and got involved in this overseas. And I think the reason I'm telling you this is because when you go to Calcutta, India, or if you go to Thailand or any of these countries, you see it right there. You see this thing, sex trafficking in particular, of young women, girls, children being trafficked or being sold, being sexually exploited. And it's so visual. And so when you start looking at the United States, you think it's just over there. You know, you have that tendency to think it's over there. Because I worked for that organization for 8 years, and I had trouble getting people to understand it was even over there. That slavery is the worst it's ever been in our civilization. You know, back then it was 27 million people in slavery today in the world. Now I think it's 32, 35 million, whatever it is. Always underestimated, by the way. And, you know, being in this country, I think, well, I thought slavery was over, you know. And so then you start looking at all these aspects of it, and it just blows you away. And so I spent years trying to get people, this is real over there, you know. And then I meet a gentleman by the name of Bob Burton at the University of Nebraska. He's in the athletic office there, and he's taken back by this whole issue over there. And I'm not going to, I don't have enough time to kind of go that whole story, but he's the founder of Ive Got A Name, and it's an old Jim Croce song. You college students probably have no idea who Jim Croce is, but Jim Croce was a folk singer in the 70s, and he had a song called Ive Got A Name. And when Bob found out about human trafficking, and in particular sex trafficking, his first thought was, and boys get trafficked too, okay? Boys get trafficked too, but most of what we're doing is girls and females. And he thought every one of these girls should be treated with love, respect, and dignity. They have a purpose in their life, and it's certainly not this. They all have a name, a God-given name. So that's what inspired him. And so he thought, what can I do about it? And then, crazy enough, that's on a Thursday. He goes to this conference on Saturday. There's an article in the Lincoln Journal-Star, and here I am with these girls in Prince's Home in Kathmandu, and he can't believe there's an organization in Lincoln fighting this over there. So he then is inspired, and he starts this organization called Ive Got A Name, okay? And so I'm here today because of him and how he started that. I need to tell you, though, that one of the biggest challenges we face, I believe, in Nebraska and in our country is that we don't think it's here, and we certainly don't understand what it is, okay? And honestly, when I started as the first director in 2016, I thought, can we just quit talking about it, just do something? And then it dawned on me, we're clueless. We just don't understand what it is. And I also want to share with you, I've talked to a lot of people in the last, 12 years about this. I've met a lot of people. And I'm so glad there's a lot of men here, okay? Because I personally believe this is a huge man issue. Huge man issue. And it's a business model. It's a business, okay? Purchasing a human being. But I think one of the things that we struggle with is all of the phraseologies, terminologies, and the myths about what this is. For instance, how many of you seen the movie Pretty Woman? You don't need to raise your hand here, but I'll keep my hand up. I thought it was a cool, cute movie back in the day. And when I look at it now, it is an atrocity. The life of a woman in the life of prostitution, there's nothing glamorous about it. In fact, I think the biggest issue they had was her roommate didn't have rent money. Are you kidding me? You know? It is so dark. And so we're pushed towards these ideas of what this is by movies and media and things. And so that's our framework of understanding this. And I talk to mostly men who'd say, well, these women in prostitution, they make great money, don't they? And that's their lifestyle choice. They make good money. This is their choice. Why don't they go get another job if they want another job? And they don't get it. They don't understand it. About a year and a half ago, I was speaking to some high school and middle school students. And I asked the young ladies, I said, how many of you are thinking about being a prostitute or going into that lifestyle when you graduate? And they all giggled and laughed. And I said, isn't that about the dumbest thing you've ever heard? But that's what people think. That's what people think. It's a lifestyle choice, okay? And so I like to give this example, and I want you to be real honest with yourself in here. Really honest with yourself, okay? Standing over here, I have a 28-year-old woman who's in the life of prostitution. Imagine her. What's she look like? What's she wearing? What's her demeanor? What's the color of her skin? And what do you think about her? Just be honest with yourself. Over here, I have a 12-year-old girl. She's in the life of prostitution. What's she look like? What's she wearing? What's her demeanor? What's the color of her skin? And what do you think about her? You see, most of us would say, where are her parents? Are you kidding me? And what person would touch that child, that 12-year-old? We have that immediate reaction over there. And I say, but she was 12 when she started in this life. She's lucky enough to survive so far, and there's nothing lucky about that life. You see what I'm saying? We look at these things. And I had those descriptions for a reason that I asked you to think about. Because I've dealt with them myself, you see. When I'm in Hamburg, Germany about 5 years ago, and my friend Zeki were in the red light district, and he says, Paul, there's prostitutes right over there. And it's like 5 p.m, and I don't see them. And I walk across that street, and immediately him and I are grabbed by these young girls. Grabbed. Now, it didn't really bother me. A week before, I was offered a 12-year-old in Nepal for $150 for 3 hours or $250 for the night. Our undercover operative, it's 50 cents. I'm a Westerner. They think that's why I'm there. But what really bothered me about that experience, I'm going to be honest with you, what really bothered me about that experience, why didn't I see him? Because I had a stereotype in my head. From back in 2008 when I'm doing all the research and creating my own brochures, just Google prostitutes or prostitution and do images. And with respect to those in this group in color, I'm looking for an African American woman with a miniskirt and red high-heeled shoes, breasts hanging out. That was my reality. That was the image I had. So ashamed and embarrassed by that myself, because of all those things that have been put in my head. This has nothing to do with your ethnic background. This has nothing to do with your income bracket. Certainly poverty can put you in situations that make you vulnerable. Okay? Although the Creighton report will say that 50%, I believe it's 50% of the ads and the research were African American. Does that make this an African American issue? It does not. They're being targeted. I cannot stress that enough. Okay? Lauren Bethel, an international consultant, hit it right on the nail, right on the head when she said, it's the exploitation of vulnerability. What makes you vulnerable to this? What makes you vulnerable to this? So a mother and her child, her daughter in high school, are going to go buy shoes in a store. This is an Anna Brewer story. She's going into a store to buy shoes, and her daughter sees her friend working there. And they're in high school together. They're in the same class, and they're on the soccer team together. And they hug each other. And then the mom starts asking this young girl questions. I'm not sure if it was this visit or the next visit, but she starts asking these questions like, so how long have you worked here? And how many hours do you work? And what do you get paid? Well, I can only work so many hours because my parents told me that number one priority is school. Number two is I'm on the soccer team, my commitment. I can only work so many hours for gas money, entertainment money, that's it. That sounds like pretty good parenting to me. Getting priorities in high school, it's a tough thing to do. I got 2 in high school right now. And so the mother starts saying, well, I own a spa. And I have a part-time position. I can pay you more than you're getting paid here. Who wouldn't want that job? I'm sure this young girl went home and told her parents, this is awesome. It's so-and-so's mom. She has a spa. You know where this is headed. So she works at that spa. And after a while, she starts to realize that certain times of the day, more men are coming into the spa than women. And she starts to figure out there's more going on back here than spa things. Okay? And here comes the question. Do you want to make more money? Just go back there. Just go back there. Certainly she wouldn't do that. She's a good student in high school. She's on the soccer team. She's got priorities in her life. Until the FBI find her back there. She was coerced and lied to by this woman. She was taken in by this woman. Woman's in prison now. Or the recruiter that goes to a high school football game, and the girls think he's cute, and his objective, he's been hired by a couple, to get them to a party that they shouldn't go to, but they do. Drink some alcohol, smoke some weed, that's not free. They got him right there. They scare the hell out of him. All they need is one. You see, that doesn't have anything to do with their income bracket or their ethnicity. The exploitation of vulnerability. What makes you vulnerable? Your own self-esteem? What makes a man vulnerable to purchasing? You see, this is not Ive Got A Name's opinion. This is Paul Yates' opinion. This has nothing to do about the beauty and joy of a sexual relationship. This is about power. That's what this is. This is about control. That's what this is. There's nothing sensual about any of this. So I'm throwing all this at you like a fire hose because you have to start to understand that it's very complex. It has to do with sex, drugs, and money. And a lot of people don't want to talk about it. And I've been fighting this since 2008, and I still don't understand it. I'm learning every day more about this issue. But I do know for sure we're struggling understanding that it's here. The Creighton report has a map, a heat map. This is 2016, and it shows along the interstate activity in advertisements. It's kind of like the weather map. You know, when it's red or pink, you better be indoors. This is activity on the website that's no longer online, okay, back page. But it's activity between buyers and sellers, okay? And the color brightness is the activity. The size of the circle is the number of ads that were on that site, okay? And it's all along the interstate, okay? I love that because it shows it's real here. In our state, at least 900 girls are for sale every month. In the Lincoln area, 200. I think in Omaha, 675. One is too many. We all know that. And as Ron Hampton, a researcher for the University of Nebraska, he did international research, he says it's always underestimated. Always underestimated. And that's the Creighton report. But then you just think it's along that interstate. I was just showing Kathy earlier a news story in Oxford, Nebraska, of a gentleman who was arrested for trafficking. Arrested for trafficking. It's everywhere. I cannot emphasize that enough. It's everywhere, okay? And so that is what we have to start to understand, what's going on here, and the things we look for, and the warning signs. And Kathy's going to talk about what their group does with training, which is awesome, because that's that step towards that. That's that step towards that. I'm going to stop there with all of that fire hose, because I see all your faces. Because there's also greatness that's happening in our state. Our Attorney General is leading this a lot. He's gotten some federal money, he's doing some great things, and you have all these organizations like Set Me Free and your coalition stuff starting to stand up. You see, we're counting on you people to get involved. You see, every one of you are influencers, every one of you, whether it's on your phone or when you talk to people, okay? So start to understand this. Start to absorb what all this is. Go to our websites. Find out about these things. Because I guarantee you, you've seen something you didn't recognize. And if you do, what are you going to do about it? The core of what we do, I've Got A Name, we have 3 pillars. Awareness, which I've just talked about. Second is take action, and that's Megan doing her outreach, street outreach. And the third is inspiration. Be inspired, get involved. Okay? I just want to tell one last quick story. I'm driving down, if you're familiar with Lincoln, down Highway 2 earlier this summer with he was 15-year-old son at the time, and he wanted it, I always call it an overpriced milkshake at Sonic. Like $5. It just pains me every time I go in and buy that for him. We're going there, it's at 10:30 at night, and I buy him this milkshake, and we're driving back on Highway 2 to go home, and all of a sudden I'm looking up in the highway, and there's a car up in front of me with this door wide open, passenger side, wide open. My first thought is a bunch of high school kids. It's summer. They're messing around. And I pull up behind the car in the turning lane, and then all of a sudden the light turns green, and they take off, and they're going through this strip mall area because they're going to head back where they came from. And I'm following them. And my son's saying, Dad, what are you doing? I'm not chasing them. I'm following them. Because this is what started registering in my head as I'm sitting at the red light. I wasn't thinking about it at the time, but when they're going, I'm thinking, okay, that door opened up again. Was that screaming I heard in that car, or was that laughter? Was that woman in the van next to her, was she on her phone because she was just on her phone, or was she calling 911? Was that somebody in distress, or wasn't it? You see, I could have just said, I'm going to go home. It's probably just a bunch of high school kids. When I pulled back out and car pulled in front of me, I couldn't get back on the highway to get close to them, and they were kind of gone. And I started following, I called 911. And I said, this is a non-emergency, and I described what I saw. I described the car the best I could. Maybe there's a distress situation there. Maybe that woman did call. Maybe somebody else saw it. Or maybe it's just a bunch of high school kids screwing around. I mean, that door wasn't just like open and close. It was open the whole way when it was driving up to that red light. Okay? I'm just responding. Because maybe there's a young person in that car that needs help. You know? Maybe. And so that's why I'm saying we all can be observant of this. We can all learn about this, and we can get involved. Every one of us in this room, and everyone that you know. And that's why this is awesome to have a panel like this, to start having that conversation. And guys, especially us. Especially us. Okay? I'm going to ask Megan just to say a few things about what she does with the girls and women. Mm-hmm. And I know at the end of this we'll have Q&A and everything. And oh my gosh. Okay.
I don't want to stand. Can you guys hear me? Yeah. Okay. So yep, I'm the street outreach director. I get what I would consider the best part of the job. I get to work directly one-on-one with the girls and women that are have been entangled in this. We get referrals from all over different organizations in Lincoln. They call up and say, hey, we're concerned about somebody. Would you be willing to work with them? Anywhere from the police department to domestic violence organizations. And like she said in the introduction, I have a past and a history like others, and I use that to help the girls and women that I work with today. And let's see what else.
Jail.
Yep, that's another part of my job. I go out and talk. I go out and give presentations at the jail and try to connect with women out there. Usually, at the end of my presentation, I'll offer I'll say if this really resonates with any of you women, I would be willing to come out and talk to you one-on-one. Sometimes out of a group of 20, there's maybe one or two that will say, hey, will you come back out and speak with me? I went out to York, talked at the women's prison, and just worked with all ages. I mean, I've been at the youth detention center working with a 13-year-old girl. I work currently with a woman that was trafficked by her own parents since she was 2 years old. Just every situation is different, and it's just really, really unbelievable what goes on in the world. And it's like Paul said, it's definitely everywhere. It's everywhere, and it can be a lot of it can be a dark subject, dark, deep, devastating stuff. So it can get pretty heavy, but really encouraging, not enabling, but pretty much empowering is what I do with these girls. Sometimes when I meet them, they're at this point in their life where they see absolutely no light at the end of the tunnel. They see absolutely no hope, and I can say, you know what, I've been there. Let me help you. Let me walk through life with you. I know that it was when I was at my worst, I was at the bottom. It was those people that came alongside and said, you know what, Megan, you are a good person, you're a good mom, you have a good heart, like you can do this, and really rooted me on and really just loved me. I didn't know, honestly, I didn't know what healthy love was. I didn't know what love really was, and it was those people that came alongside me. And so that's honestly what I do now. I'm able to give what I've went through. I'm able to give back and help women and girls in Lincoln. So I love it. I love my job. Yeah, that's about it.
That's our spiel.
We're ready for the PowerPoint.
Is that going to be like right here? So should we?
Oh.
Oh,
We'll see if
okay,
they
yeah,
can
we just
see.
get over.
Maybe they might be able to see
Yeah.
still.
Hey, Megan.
I don't know.
Let's do this. Let's do
Let's
this.
see.
We'll get out of the way.
Oh my goodness.
Maybe there's a power. Maybe it's not going to cooperate. There it is. Just took a little while to warm up. Okay, very good. Thank you. So I'm going to talk about the Coalition on Human Trafficking. We operate in Omaha, and some of our programs exist in Iowa and Nebraska outside of Omaha. And I'm going to talk about what we do, but also how the organization was created. And I'm telling the story because it starts very small. And maybe you'll see yourself in that story. And maybe you'll be compelled to do something against human trafficking as well. So first, just talking about what is a coalition. It's a group of people, multidisciplinary group of people with coming from different backgrounds that get together to provide a united front to address a common goal. And their goal is to change something. So when I think about what has changed in my lifetime, I think about littering, I think about smoking. As a little girl driving down the street in the back of my mom and dad's car, people would throw McDonald's bags out the windows and cigarette butts and whatever they wanted. Our community was just littered. And soon laws became enacted. It's illegal now to throw something out a window. I remember my parents telling me, you throw something out that window, we could get up to $1,000 fine. Don't throw things out the window. So I quit throwing things out the window, and lots of people quit throwing things out the window. Public service announcements came out on TV. It's wrong to litter. It's basically immoral to litter. You're ruining the beauty of our environment. So now we live in a world where there's very little litter out amongst the city streets, where it really used to be just covered. And you probably have all know the smoking evolution too, from being able to smoke in buildings to no longer being able to smoke in buildings everywhere. So a coalition is a group of people that really tries to change things through laws, through education and awareness. They create a systematic change so that pretty soon the culture is changed. People's mindsets are changed. And that's what we are working for. So the Coalition on Human Trafficking actually started with a couple of women religious. There are sisters, nuns, and globally, the nuns are extremely active in every country. But in the United States, the United States Religious Women Conference asked the local orders, do you feel compelled to do something in this arena? A couple of the women in the Notre Dame Sisters really felt compelled to check this out. Were they called to do this? Was there something here? Did they feel passionate about this? And did they have the skills and ability to do anything about that? As they began doing research, asking questions, trying to find out what is going on in Omaha, who knows something about this, they were introduced to a retired FBI agent who happened to work in Reno, Nevada. She fought human trafficking in brothels, basically. She arrested people. She then moved to Omaha and began the Omaha Child Exploitation Task Force because she realized many children were exploited in this crime. So they were introduced to her. They were also introduced to the prosecutor who prosecuted the traffickers that she busted. And so that was a great team where they were able to continue to expand their knowledge. Then introduced to the Douglas County Sheriff, who also was working against human trafficking. Then introduced to people who were working in social services, victim services, helping people who had been victimized in this crime, because it's been going on a long time. We haven't maybe named it as such, but it's been going on a long time. And so they developed this large group of diverse people with a common interest to change what is going on in human trafficking. They began setting goals. They looked at themselves and said, what can we do? Who are we? What are our gifts and talents? And what kinds of goals can we set for ourselves? This continued on, and they ended up incorporating in Nebraska in 2017, established a board of directors, so they became more formalized in their processes and what they do, because they said, we got some good work going on here now. We don't want, if somebody gets sick or someone dies or someone moves out of the city, we don't want to lose what we've got. So they formalized, established a board, so there would be some continuity in the work. And then in 2018, established a 501c3, which is a nonprofit, which allows you to receive donations, and it allows you to be a tax-exempt organization. So in really 4 short years, they went from discernment of whether to get involved in something to having this coalition of people that have developed programs and are working against human trafficking. There we go. So as they were looking at what can we do, what are we good at, what are our skills, a lot of them were teachers, so training and education fell right in their skill set. They also realized legislation is very important in order to change culture. So they looked at what can we do in the legislative world, which the answer was they can call their senators, they can mobilize their email chains to call senators, they can pay attention to what bills are going on, be aware and be on top of things. When do these bills hit the floors? Or what are the senators saying? Are they moving toward approving the bills, or are they moving away from approving the bills? They also looked at victim assistance and did some investigation. How much money would it take to help somebody who had been victimized? They realized this was way beyond their scope or their financial capability. So that one they did not continue with. But one that they did continue with is the Hotel Motel Project. And that is the flagship project of the Coalition on Human Trafficking right now. They decided to look at hotels because, based on the Omaha Child Exploitation Task Force experience, about 75% of sex trafficking was happening in the hotels. And who better to recognize the signs than the experts in the hotels? Those are the people who work there, the hotel staff, the people who are in housekeeping, the people at the front desk who see people coming in all the time. The janitorial staff who might see something in the wastebasket, the security staff who sees things on camera all the time. So they began a training program to help hotel staff to realize, recognize, and respond to signs of human trafficking. To realize that trafficking is here and it's serious, and it's probably happening in their hotel. And that's a big admit, like Paul said, people are not aware. Then to recognize, so in our training we go through what are the signs, what as a hotel staff worker going in the rooms and cleaning, what might you see that might be suspect, it might be a sign of human trafficking. Or a front desk worker, when your clients come in, what might you see that might be a sign of human trafficking. And then if they do suspect trafficking, how might they respond? What should they keep? Who should they call? What should they do if the victim is approaching them? So the program is about 30 to 45 minutes, and we ask hotel managers if we can come in, we can train their hotels, and we do the training with hotel staff. The whole goal of the training, not the whole goal, but the training really is to create a hospitality market where hotels want to be a safe, family-friendly environment where they don't want hostility in their hotel. Many times there are other crimes associated with human trafficking. I don't think hotels want robberies, murders, other things like that going in their hotels. So to be aware and to try to keep this out of your hotel is a really smart thing to do. So we really encourage them to get out ahead of the problem, to not get caught in a liability situation. We recently, like in the last 6 months, have seen some serious lawsuits against hotels. And the lawyers are, if there's money to be made, a lawyer will find the way. And a lawyer said that, so I'm just borrowing it from him. But they're combining situations of people who've been victimized, and they're putting lawsuits against 6-10 hotels in major cities. And they're saying hotel staff should have noticed. They should have recognized these signs, and they should have done something to assist the victim, but they didn't. And therefore, your hotel is now liable. Now, I don't know where the lawsuits are going to go. These are just lawsuits that are coming out in the media. And we also encourage them to get policies and procedures and training in place so that they are protected as a hotel, and ultimately that people who are being victimized are protected. So the strategy really ultimately is to engage not just the hotels and motels, but to create greater public awareness that encourage policies, and also in corporations, that law enforcement who are being trained by the Nebraska Human Trafficking Task Force, that they are supported by the work that we do. We're calling 911. The hotel staff's calling 911. If the police are trained to be able to come in and investigate that, then we're partners. We're working together, ultimately to create no trafficking cities. That's what we want. When our mayor introduced the hotel motel program to the city, that's what she said. We want Omaha to be a no trafficking city. So our program is implemented through volunteers. It takes about 30 to 45 minutes to train the hotel staff. We don't charge the hotel for the presentation, and we do offer it in Spanish and now actually in other languages. So we have volunteers who translate in Spanish, and we've tried to get as many volunteers as possible that can translate in other languages as well. So our volunteers are awesome. They have said that it's a very rewarding experience for them, because what they find is that they really are making a difference. They find that what the staff response is, and Paul said this too, people have seen it. They did not know what it was, but they had seen the signs. And when they get to a certain part in the training, it's like, oh my goodness, if only I would have known, I would have made a phone call. And we even have situations where people have said, I think something is happening now in room 236. And the police have been called immediately. So the recognition of the signs is really important, because I think people do want to help. They do want to do something positive. They do want to help eliminate this, but they need to know what the signs are in order to do that. The status of our project in Omaha is we've trained over, well, it's really Lincoln, Omaha, Council Bluffs. That's kind of the 50-mile radius that we operate in. We've trained over 145 hotels in this area. The towns of Blair, Fremont, and Wahoo are saying kudos to us, because they've trained 100% of the hotels in their communities. We've gotten extremely positive feedback from the hotels and the volunteers. And we do a little assessment that we kind of say, have we moved the needle? Have we moved the needle on this perception? Again, of what Paul's talking about. Hotel staff might say, well, and actually a hotel manager did say this, we have some really nice prostitutes working here, and they get along really well with their front desk workers. They're not causing any problems. Did we move the needle to say, maybe those people are not freely operating? Maybe they are a victim of human trafficking. Did we move the needle in the thoughts and beliefs and attitudes of those listening? Do people now know, do they now realize that it is happening in their city? Do they know how to recognize the signs, and do they know how to report? So those are the things we measure in our training, and we have seen the needle move on all of those aspects. The coalition is broadening its scope. We have developed a security training, so we're going to be training security guards. We're working with some corporations. Utility workers are extremely interested because they are out on the streets. They are by the apartment buildings, by the hotels. They have an opportunity to be out there every single day to see potentially signs of human trafficking. So we have trained them. And then business travelers on an airplane, in a hotel, in a train depot, in the bathroom of the airport. If you're aware, you can see signs. So business travelers are very excited when they hear that they have the opportunity to possibly make a difference here. So I'll just ask you to think about this. How might you make a difference? Milford, I don't know if Milford has a coalition, but it would be a great thing for Milford to have, because any and every town has human trafficking. And one thing a coalition does, as I said, is raise awareness. So if it only did that, that would be a huge step. So I would just ask you to think about how might you make a difference. And certainly, if you see something, say something. Our website is notrafficking.org. And because one of the things that we do usually educate on are signs, I do want to point out to you that in our brochure, we have the 3 sections: realize, recognize, and respond. And I am just going to point out the signs under recognize, and I would encourage you to take a look at that and be aware. So thank you. Thank you. And I can go off there. Do you want to go on?
Are y'all waiting on me? Oh, okay, great. Hi, I'm Ty. I'm with the Set Me Free Project. Just really quick, who knows the average age of entry into the lifestyle of human trafficking for a female? Anyone? It's 13 years old. What is the average age of entry for a boy into the lifestyle of human trafficking? I will take any guess. Y'all just gonna leave me hanging like this? 8. Actually, you're right. You're really close. The average age for a boy is between 9 and 11 years old. What grade were you in during that time? You're kids, right? The Set Me Free Project, 85% of our presentations are done in the schools. We have a curriculum that goes from the 3rd grade all the way up to college-age youth. We separate the students from their parents. We give parents education as well as the students. In 3rd grade, of course, we're not saying, oh, human trafficking. We're talking about empathy. What does it mean to care about someone? We start every class off by letting the individuals in that class know, hey, you're important. You're worthy. You deserve to be loved. I am so excited right now that you are breathing. I am so happy. Thank you for being here. Simply because you exist, that means you are worth something. And no matter what you do in your life, you will always have worth. And you will always be valuable. Then the kids kind of look at us a little bit confused, like, yo, why are you saying this to us? And I let them know because there are traffickers, pimps, abusers. There are people in this world that will try to dehumanize you. And then they will sell you to the highest bidder if you give them the opportunity. We try to stop human trafficking before it starts. In high schools, we introduce sections about, actually, middle school, we introduce sections about social media safety. How do you start a relationship? Anyone? Come on. How do you start a relationship? Exactly, you talk to someone. Anybody in here ever have a crush? Like a crush, you know? They showed up to school every day looking amazing. You couldn't talk to them, so you just kind of smiled like a weirdo from across the room, just smiled at them. Maybe you wrote in their journal about their name 1,000,000 times. You know, in that situation, you're not going to start a relationship by staring at someone and writing about them. You have to talk to them. So in the process of talking to someone, we get relationships started. We talk about communication and what it means to have healthy communication. Is communication, where were you? You should have been here. Why didn't you text me back? What is that? No, that's technically digital abuse. It's also verbal abuse. Whereas healthy communication is more of, hey, I thought we had plans to go somewhere. Are we still going? Did something happen? Where are you now? When you have conversations, it's a back and forth. If you are ever in a situation where you feel like you can't converse with that person, or you feel afraid, that's not healthy. People don't wake up overnight and are trafficked, and are automatically prostitutes, automatically victims. We're seeing the grooming process, which is a process of relationship building through communication. What is the age required to start an actual, the real, not the watered down version of a social media account? Facebook, TikTok, what? Anyone know? Instagram? Go ahead, baby. You lie about your age! Exactly! But what is the age? 13. I'm in the schools. I talk to third graders that have TikToks and Instagrams. I just told you the average age of entry into this lifestyle is 13 years old. 13 and 13. Do you believe in coincidences? Right now on TikTok, anyone have kids? Right now on TikTok, which is a popular app for kids about, let's say, 8 to about 16. It's really popular. Even though technically you're supposed to be 13 when you're on it. Right now on TikTok, they have this thing called a sugar baby tutorial. And you see all these beautiful individuals, these really handsome guys and really pretty girls with screenshots behind them showing who's paid for what. $50 for my nails, $300 just because you're pretty. Guys, social media is promoting a lifestyle that a lot of these kids don't realize what they're getting into. So again, the Set Me Free project, we start at third grade. What is empathy? What is healthy relationships? What does it mean to communicate with someone? Going into what is social media safety? How do you recognize someone who is trustworthy? All while reminding them that they are still valuable, even if they've made a mistake. Right now in high school, something really popular, sexting. Kids are not typically talking to their parents about sexting. But we know that human trafficking happens through the force, fraud, or coercion of another human being. How many individuals have sent nudes? When you're in those classrooms, you have to talk to those kids. We find out, yes, I did send a nude. I said I wanted to break up and end the relationship, and they threatened to expose me. They threatened to show these nudes. They threatened to put them online, tag my parents in them, unless, guys, human trafficking is in the schools, it's in churches, it's on these streets. Sometimes it's even in their homes. And with the Set Me Free project, we try to go ahead and create a safe space. We start the safe space off by letting them know that no matter what you say today, we really do want the real answer. We're not going to get mad at you. Just tell us, what are you doing? And through stories, and we laugh, and we joke, and we talk about the hottest apps, the newest memes, things that are funny, get the conversation started and going. And after building that rapport with those students, they open up. They tell us what it is. They tell us what it means to sex. They tell us about the new apps that they're on. They tell us about lying about their age to get onto social media. Then we ask them, have you ever gotten anything on social media that made you feel a little uncomfortable? They let us know. Those late night, after dark, Snapchat texts that you get that are a little bit explicit, that you weren't ready to receive. But you got them anyway, even though you didn't ask for them. How do you handle that type of situation? We talk it through. Once they're in middle school, after 7th grade, we start telling them about some of the cases that have happened in Nebraska. We try to open their eyes. We do not use fear. We just use communication. Let's see. So when we bring in the conversation just about human trafficking, we ask them, hey, have you seen anything? Do you know what you're looking for? And then we give them a breakdown, step-by-step process or step-by-step visual of the grooming process using local news. Things that have happened locally. For example, the story you told earlier about the spa. Best friends, that's my best friend's mom. Then we ask them, do you really know your best friend? And of course, because kids know everything, yes, that's my best friend, I know. Okay. I tell them to look around the room. Look at each other. Look at your teacher. Look at me. Now, raise your hand if you've ever felt insecure. And everyone in the room typically will raise their hand. I ask them just by sight, could you tell what everyone else's insecurities were? You can. Now think about your best friend. Your best friend. I go down a series of questions. What's their favorite color? What do they want to be when they grow up? What do their parents do? Are they suicidal? Can they talk to you about anything? Is your best friend okay? If your best friend was offered $50,000 right now to get up and leave this town and never come back, would they leave? Would they leave you too? Would they still contact you? Is your best friend okay? What did your best friend eat last night? Is your best friend in a one-parent household or a two-parent household? Is your best friend suicidal? Has your best friend ever been raped? What do your best friend's parents do for a living? Were your best friend's parents ever raped? Were they ever trafficked? Do you know what trafficking is? Does your best friend know what trafficking is? And through these series of questions, they get a little, uncomfortable. Because of course, this is uncomfortable. When I'm asking them these questions, they realize, no, I don't actually know my best friend as well as I thought I did. Okay, if you don't know your best friend as well as you thought you did, how do you know who you're talking to online? 85% of our presentations are done in schools, where we separate students from parents. In the rooms with the parents, honestly, parents are the hardest to educate, because it's always, not my kid, they know better, they were raised better than that. But in reality, the industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry filled with children who were raised better, children who knew better, children that only went to the best schools. When they say it can happen to anyone, it can happen to anyone. When we ask, what does a trafficker look like? Creepy white van, giving out free candy, maybe a free Wi-Fi, But in reality, it could be anyone. It can be a student who's selling other students to the teacher. It can be your best friend's mom. It can be that cute guy on the football field, telling you about this really cool party. It can be anybody. We actually talk to the main targets, the kids. Because if we start early, we can stop it. When we first started in 2014, we were only in a couple of schools. As of right now, we are in over 200 schools. We are in Nebraska, we are in South Dakota, we are in Iowa, as well as Kansas. And we're still growing. Because this message is something that needs to be heard before it's too late. Before they're in prison, before they've been groomed, before everything is going bad, we need to stop it now. And by telling kids when you walk into the room that they're important, that they matter, that they're going to be great one day, and that they still have options, even if everything seems all bad, there are still options. You are still worthy. You are still worth it. No matter what mommy and daddy says, no matter how you feel, no matter what the coach says, no matter what your GPA is, you are not stupid. It is okay. It's okay to not be okay. And let's talk about how to be okay. When we nip it in the butt like that, just immediately just nip it right there, then that's an obstacle that an abuser will have to surpass, or come over to even get to them. Our goal is to put as many obstacles in the way as possible. Then we talk about slut shaming. What does it really mean to slut shame someone? Is everyone clear on what slut shaming is? Yes? No? No. Okay. When we talk about slut shaming, we talk about what it means to have a label in high school or in middle school or period in life. A lot of times, oh, that one over there, that one, the whore, that person, that people don't want to be around, that give them that reputation. We talk about that reputation and what it means to actually have it. And then we ask them, is that person really that label? Or is something deeper going on? Is that person truly being trafficked and no one knows because no one cares enough to just talk to them? Because we all know when you get a reputation, it's easy to ostracize that person. It's now them versus us, and we don't talk to them. We challenge those concepts and we challenge those myths behind everything. For example, when we talked about the boy between 9 and 11, if we're only looking for women, what happens to that boy? What do you say to that boy? You're saying you are not a victim, therefore you don't matter, therefore your voice is not heard, and nobody wants to help you. If we talk about victims only being kidnapped, when it happens, human trafficking happens in the family, what are we telling those victims? Their story doesn't matter. They're not victims. Get over it. So when we talk about labels and slut shaming, what if the label is an issue? What if the label is the issue? What if this is really a victim that no one is talking to? We all know that in high school, the students know what's going on way before the teachers do. And they keep the secrets to themselves. And no one wants to speak up because no one wants to be a snitch. No one wants to get anyone else in trouble. We give those individuals the tools they need to know, hey, if you see something, say something. Speak up. It is okay. So yeah, we talk to the students. We don't shame them. We just try to get our point across. And then we talk to the parents. We let the parents know about the new apps, about the new trends that are happening. And then we let them also know, because everyone knows you're not really on social media unless you have a couple of profiles. And in that couple of, profiles, you have the profile your parents can see, and then you have the real profile where you're wilding out on it just a little bit. We warn parents about that. And we show parents how to navigate social media. We show parents tools they can use to actually talk to their kids about what's going on. Many, many times in those classrooms, students will tell us that they're not talking to their parents because they're going to get yelled at, or they're going to something like a whole interrogation. But communication is supposed to be back and forth when it's healthy. So we talk to parents about how to address the topic. Hey, did you see anything today? Can we talk about it? And then if there is a disclosure, if a student ever comes forward and says that something is going on that we need to know about, we always make it a warm handoff, because the Set Me Free project only works in prevention. But we work with the individuals that are around us, for example, rescue, restoration, the police. We get that warm handoff there. That way you're not alone and you don't feel like a number, and you are passed off to the appropriate response. So yeah, that's the Set Me Free project and what we do. Thank you.
We are going to open it up now to any questions from our audience to the panel. So if you guys have questions or wanted some more information on anything you heard tonight, would you raise your hand and I can come to you with the microphone. Any comments?
Can I just make a comment on what they're thinking about that? You just said was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
What you said was awesome, and what you're doing is awesome. Because you're starting young, you're educating the communities, you're getting, I said, you're influencers. This ought to be curriculum in our schools.
Thank you.
It needs to be curriculum in our schools. And if you have any opportunity to influence that, speak up. You need to. It's awesome that you're doing that. It's awesome that you're coming in and talking to these kids, because I can't even imagine being a teenager today. These things are awesome, but they're frightening. They are. And the parents too. They don't know what to do. You hit several nails right on the head with that, And I'm telling you, I'm an optimist, but it's only going to get worse. Technology is frightening. Frightening. So this is why it's so, thank you for allowing us to come here to do this, because you guys, we can just pretend like it's not going to happen to us, or it doesn't matter, or we can really make a hell of a difference in a child's life. In a child's life. I would love for our work to be put out of business.
Definitely.
Thanks, Paul. Any thoughts or questions or comments?
Come on now, that first one. I know it's out there.
Okay, well, we have time, and hopefully our panelists can stick around a little bit. We also want to send a huge thank you out to the chamber here in Milford. They provided snacks and publicized and advertised and really just put the word out for us for this awesome experience, so we could share the information with you. So we want to thank them. So can we give a round of applause for that? So we will, You guys can stay, ask questions, come up, or we'll kind of mingle. The cookies and drinks are back there, but also please don't forget if you did want or need to sign in, that's up here. There's some sign-in sheets and some information brochures at the table. But thank you all for coming. Thanks again, and thanks to our panelists.
Yep.
Thank you. You guys are incredible. Thank you so much for everything you guys do. Definitely.
Really good.
Hi, I'm Jessica. Thank you for being here. Oh my gosh.
I promise
The question is, how do we work together?
And I wasn't standing in the door.
What I want to ask you is, okay, so you see a young girl,